Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Security Noise, InfoSec Leaders of the Future. I'm your host, Geoff Walton. I lead the application security practice at TrustedSec here in the present. This episode continues our look at developing careers in InfoSec. Today we're joined by a couple of folks from Paradigm Cyber Ventures. You may recall from our past episode looking at Bedford High School's program that they're partners in that effort. I also have our producer, Skyler Tutor, with me. And as usual, he's going to keep us on topic and ensure the show sounds great. We do have a couple of announcements. If you have any questions about the show or you wish to contribute or maybe be a guest, you can visit the show on Discord. Go to discord.gg/trustedsec to join. My other announcement is this will be our final program for the summer, and a little bit more on that at the end of the show. Well, first, let me welcome our guests from Paradigm. We have Matt Miller and Keith Koehne. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join our show. Your business is helping schools and educators build information security courses into their industrial technology education and provide a path for careers to InfoSec for students. Can you describe that mission a little bit in your own words and tell us a little bit about your roles at Paradigm and your own backgrounds?
Sure. Thanks, Geoff. And thanks for Security Noise for having both Keith and I on here. We are excited to get this opportunity to talk about our company, our program, and really what we do is we create opportunities for students. Keith and I are career educators and for a school district that we were working in, and we decided through a couple really strange twists of events that cybersecurity is one of those careers that needed more people in it, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And so when we take our mantra of creating opportunities for students and apply that to cybersecurity, we developed a cybersecurity curriculum and teacher training program for high schools across the U.S. so that we can supply the companies like TrustedSec with the employees that they need. And so that was sort of the genesis of how we got started.
So as Matt was saying, I think that where we come from is from the heart of educators. We've built programs that have been successful. We've seen the students and we've seen the employers' jaws drop when talking to our students. And as we saw that happening, we knew that we were onto something and that we had more students across the country who were capable of the same things we had seen. And we knew that we had more employers across the country who were thirsty for that kind of talent. And so that's really where we come from. We know schools really well. We're getting to understand employers and what their needs really are. And we've built and designed our programs kind of backward map from what our industry partners have told us, and using kind of a career long of experiences within education to make sure that it's the right kind of program for success.
And if I can just sort of interject sort of our genesis story, as it were, Keith and I were both working in a school district. One weekend I was at a professional tennis match. The gentleman sitting next to me, after a few hours, said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I said, "Oh, I work in a public school." And right away he said, "Well, you should be teaching cybersecurity to high school students." And my first thought was, "Oh, you mean like don't do anything bad online, be a good digital citizen?" He's like, "No, I have a really close friend of mine who is a VP at a cybersecurity company, and they don't have enough talent." So really quick, because not only do we create opportunities for students, we are fast about that and try to go pretty fast. Sometimes, Geoff, in public education, K-12, we move really slow. And so, as Keith mentioned, getting a lot of support from business and industry, David Kennedy particularly, and some others, they are encouraging us to go fast. And so a few days later, we sort of outlined and sketched what a high school cybersecurity program would look like, not just one class, but 3 classes. And as Keith mentioned, how do you tie that to business and industry? So we had a lot of partners, especially early on, help us out. And essentially, K-12 education in particular moves really slow and really is really insulated from a lot of sort of outside influences. But with this program, especially with Keith's direction on the curriculum side of things, listening to the businesses say, "It's okay, we got your back." So they would sort of clear things out for us in terms of working with local and state governments and getting some more voices at the table, as it were, for input. And so the business and industry side of this really pushed our program, A, to move fast, and B, to say, here's what we need our employees to be able to do and what it should look like. And so that's not something that K-12 schools in general are particularly good at.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That was going to be one of my questions as far as kind of how you decided to, see the, secondary education environment as the opportunity to address the skills gap there. Because, certainly you listen to a lot of our national politics and stuff like that, and you absolutely hear, we got to get everybody to college. We've got to, learn to code and do all this sort of post-secondary type educational opportunities. But to bring that into the high school level, I think, in a way is kind of brave, especially because, I know a number of educators, and that kind of, you've alluded to it a little bit with the speed question, curricula development and keeping materials current, and also the ability of those educators to be familiar and comfortable with those materials. It seems like that's got to be a huge challenge here. I mean, most of what's taught in high school, chemistry, you could teach a chemistry class from a 10-year-old text. Obviously, that's not going to work in cybersecurity, at least not with the standard of the industry right now. So, how do you do that in terms of supporting the teaching staff?
Yeah, so that's a great point. Like, we came into this knowing that at first, there was no cybersecurity curriculum that existed. There were some resources, but when we started 6 or 7 years ago, we were really putting things together on our own. That has grown somewhat, and there's plenty of resources to be able to pull from. But what we have realized is that in order for this to be successful, and in order for our students to be prepared for what the industry needs, it has to be constantly evolving. So we started by being really aggressive and saying that unlike a lot of curriculum that you see out there, ours was going to be refreshed every 6 months. And we thought that was pretty bold. And now we're up to about every 6 weeks, and might be every week or so, because we're always adding to it. Some of it is from our own curiosity and being involved and paying attention to podcasts like this and to Dave Kennedy's other things that he puts out. Some of it is from our industry partners who are feeding us information that they're saying to us, this needs to be built into your curriculum. And honestly, we've built a little bit of a community now of teachers who are hungry for this and want to provide what's best for their students. So they're adding into our cohort of teachers, and Darren, who we've had on in the past, is one of those contributors to say, this is some really great stuff. So it's curated from that community. And it really is. It is as fresh and as real and as new as it can possibly be. And that's kind of what we're proud about, is that we're trying to keep our teachers on the front edge of that and try and make sure that we're always meeting those needs so it never gets stale. But in order for us to be able to do that, it really does take it takes a whole community. It takes people like you all to build into us. It takes other people in other parts of the country. And it really takes our team just kind of keep staying sharp about not being complacent about what we're providing for students.
That's really cool. So, sorry, Geoff.
By all means, Skyler, take it away.
So updating is, sorry, let me already scratch. So you're able to, continually evolve and update your program and keep it as, up with the, we'll say cyber times as you can. With that updating, how, are you able to support large school districts, or can you support down to a district like, say, one high school or something like that? Can a smaller district participate in this program, or is this something looking for a particular demographic district?
Yeah, we've had success. Our smallest school districts are high schools with less than 400 students in them. And we have school districts that have multiple high schools. I think our largest might be a 35 or 40,000 student district right now. And the good thing for us is it really comes down to the teachers in those schools. So regardless of the size of the organization or whatever, once we get in with a teacher, and what we say is we don't need a cybersecurity expert, because if they exist, they've been hired away from the schools by industry already. And secondly, we really want people, not necessarily who believe that they have all the knowledge. We want them to be hungry. We want them to be curious. We want them to be passionate, constant learners, and kid magnets. We want them to really understand the students. And what our industry partners have told us is, don't try and have them stay up with everything that's happening. Let us provide that sort of real world knowledge for them, but let them be really passionate, really great at teaching, really curious and pulling information from students and challenging them. Because what we found is like the learning that the students have to do is really about them finding answers on their own and digging through resources, and the teacher really pushing and prodding and challenging in the right sort of way. It's a little art and science together. And we've found that is the recipe for success for students, because oftentimes they'll go through sort of maybe a drill and kill style or something that's online modules where there's pushing through information, but they're not really being challenged in the right sort of way. And so that's really what we found. It doesn't matter the size of the school. It really comes down to the teacher and the support of the entire community around them.
Yeah, I've gone through both of those styles of cyber training. Although, like, I did some cybersecurity stuff in high school here in Oklahoma, all the way through college. What I found was most effective was when the instructors gave the students the resources, and the teaching aspect of it was how to utilize those resources, not how to obtain your objective, but how to utilize the resources that you have, and come to your own conclusions or analysis. So that's really awesome.
That sounds like, Skyler, you could be part of the Paradigm Cyber team, just based on what you just said right there. I mean, you've been through it, you know it, and we know it works.
You guys know how difficult hiring is in InfoSec. You cannot poach my staff.
I was about to say, so maybe after the podcast, you can tell me that.
Yeah, we'll go offline for that. And Keith said it too, is the teachers really are the secret sauce to the success of our program, because they're tied into the businesses and industry in that area. I mean, that really helps too. We localize everything that we do with the school districts. They also have some national partners, don't get me wrong, but we see a great benefit to the teachers and schools tying in with those businesses that need that cyber talent in that community and in that area. That's been huge for us. So it's not just a curriculum, it's not just the business and industry, but it's also sort of the coaching that Paradigm provides for those teachers on a continual, ongoing basis.
So in terms of that coaching, if you are at one of these smaller districts, maybe it's a rural district and you are the only an industrial tech teacher or something at that high school, if you're not a cyber expert yourself and you're that teacher that's a chapter or so ahead of the students in the book, so to speak, do you guys have resources specifically for them?
We do. One of the best things I think we do, Geoff, is they become part of a cohort that are teachers also in cyber, that are also probably in those smaller districts, and that cohort meets at a minimum of once a month for some of the training and ongoing instruction that we provide. And so while they might be of an army of one in their district and in their region, they're also able to collaborate, just like we are virtually through across state lines and nationally. So we've seen the benefit of that community sort of develops, and we've seen our curriculum implementers working with these teachers in these pockets. And so there's a lot of dialogue that takes place, not just from the Paradigm side of things, but also teacher to teacher. And so when we go to conferences and see them in person, I was just at EdCon this past week, one of the big cyber conferences for educators. The teachers that were there that are part of the Paradigm program were all like huddled. Oh my God, I can't believe that you're this tall when in this box everybody's this tall, right? And so it's good to see that interaction just on a social level, but then being able to be in person and bouncing ideas off one another too.
Do you work with any private educational institutions?
Yeah, so we've worked with some charter schools, and I tell you what's interesting is I think that like private schools have always had this sort of reputation of really only serving higher ed, and that being sort of their niche. And we've had a lot of interested parties, a lot of private schools have been interested in coming on board because they realize the return on investment, right? So if you go through this program and you're being connected to industry partners and you have a mentor during your second year, and it maybe leads to an internship during your senior year, and that student's either getting a scholarship to college or a company wanting to hire them right out of high school, or both, that is really appealing to a lot of schools. So I think that's a real growth area for us, is to really dig into that market and understand how we serve those students and those families as well.
I was just going to say, we do have a few private schools that will be coming online coming up here in the next few months with the next school year. The other opportunity will be coming up too with a virtual school that we are getting finalized and getting that in place too. So that'll be a growth area, as Keith mentioned too, for us.
That's really cool. So your website does mention, developing the soft skills and job placement, for right out of high school. Is that the primary goal of Paradigm, is to target, students who want to go directly into, the cyber industry, or is it something more of just like this is, and we're just kind of preparing the next generation for being cybersecurity aware? What's kind of the goal here, or is it both?
Matt, that's you. Go.
Oh, I thought it was going to be you, Keith. So it's both. So we see the kids coming through our program. Actually, it's more than both. It's three things, Skyler, that we see kids coming through our program. Kids coming through our program are falling into one of three buckets. The first bucket is they are 18-year-old high school graduates who have been through the Paradigm program, who may or may not have taken Security Plus certification, and they're going right into the cyber workforce, making somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000 a year starting out. That's huge. That's life-changing for a lot of the kids that are in our program. The second bucket that we're seeing are kids that, for a variety of reasons, maybe it's mom or dad want them to still go to college, or the student thinks they still want to go to college. They're going to some of the best cybersecurity programs and universities and colleges across the country. So we're seeing that as well. And then the third bucket is not as common as bucket 1 and 2, but we're seeing a third bucket just start where students really excel in the Paradigm Cyber program, are coming out of high school with Security Plus certification, but the companies really want them because they're sort of those high flyers, so to speak, and they can work at a really quick pace, but those kids still want to go to college. So we have some students that are doing both. So these companies are paying for them to go to college because they want to stay attached to the talent, and they're paying for them to go to college, but also paying them a part-time salary, for lack of a better term, in the cyber industry. So Keith likes to tell the story of, instead of a student in college working at the cafeteria or the student union making, $12 an hour, they're going to school full-time for cyber. They're getting paid by a cyber company, and they're probably making about $35,000 a year in their downtime. And so we're starting to see more and more of that happen as well. As you two probably know, if you go out to Cyber Heat Seek, you can see how many hundreds of thousands of jobs are open right now in cyber. And so we're just hoping to expand and help fill that gap right now. Keith, what did I miss? Probably 18 things.
No, that's great. And it's, for us, it really comes down to each individual student. Every student is prepared to take Security Plus before they graduate. Not all students want to, or fits in their career path, or it's the right choice for everybody. But it's really us opening up. There's 92 different career paths in cyber. So we've got to open the doors for as many students as possible. It can be in cyber. It can be in government and policy. It can be in healthcare. It can be in business. It can be in law enforcement. Like the world is open to them, and we've just got to expose them to as many of those possibilities and watch them flourish. So it's really hands-on. It's really tangible. And so for us to be able to kind of find that path for every student, that's where the good stuff is.
Keith, I'm going to ask you to tell the Zoe story.
Okay. Yeah, Zoe's one of our favorite students to talk about. So when we started the program, Zoe started with us in year 1. Cohort 1 had no idea what cyber was, never took a computer science class in her life. She entered into this. What's that?
She was a sophomore in high school.
She was a sophomore in high school.
Yep.
It was also the fall before COVID happened. So she finished up her first year remotely. The second year was sort of up and down, whatever. She did get her Security Plus. She did get her A+ certification before she got out of high school. She was our main recruiter for junior high kids coming into the program because she just had this passion, especially for young women, to be able to do this. She had an internship her senior year, had another one after her graduation. But it was really at this point where we had like a culminating night at the end of the senior year, and you could see her with flanked by all these industry professionals who were talking to her and asking her all these questions. And you could just see them like, this is what we want. This is exactly what we want. She had the technical skills. She had the professional skills. She just had the drive to do it well. And so we had a company come up to us and say, hey, we really wanted to hire you on board. We've created an entire position for you as a junior threat analyst. Even though she's 18 years old, and she said, I really want to go to college. And they said, okay, I think we can work with that. So they kept her on as a junior threat analyst. They helped pay her for her way to go to college. She went to school and she was working 20 hours a week. And we just heard like a month ago, she's now a junior in college, that she received a fairly significant promotion. And her manager, who we've known for a long time, says I keep a scorecard of all of our employees, everybody on our team, and she is right neck and neck with all of those people on our team. I said, that's really great. He said, no, hold on, Keith. You don't understand. She's doing it in half the time that they are while she's at college. And she is just this rock star. I'm like, that's it. Like if you have the want to, if you have the drive, you have the personality to do it, it opens up doors for you. And her mom, the best part is that her mom came up to me and Matt at their culminating ceremony during her senior year, sort of tearing up. And she just said, like, I've just got to tell you, like, you've changed the trajectory of my daughter's life by this program. And you hear stuff like that and you're like, how do you not do this for as many students as possible wherever they are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've touched on the different types of careers a little bit. Is there a focus for the program, though? I mean, are we looking mostly at pen testers, or are we talking forensics people, governance people, really kind of the whole gambit there? And, is that a question of we're here today and we want to expand out to these things, or, we're doing all this now, or how's that? Where are we there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that's part of the evolution of things also. So our first course is really an introduction to cybersecurity just in general. What does it look like? What are the career paths in it, but what are the skills that I need? Cyber 2 is really focused on Security Plus because we know that is sort of like an industry standard and a gateway to get in. The interesting thing is Cybersecurity 3 that we're developing is a choose your own adventure course. And so we're evolving that into be sort of like a 12 to 14 module course that hits on a bunch of different aspects, whether it's pen testing or ethical hacking or digital forensics or policy and governance, whatever those are. We've got those built out, and students are able to choose 4 or 5 of those that are of interest to them because their mentors have helped them understand what that looks like, and they understand what the careers look like coming out of that. So that's the way we've kind of seen it, like get them introduced, get them certified, and then let them choose what that looks like. And I imagine that Cyber 3 curriculum will keep evolving over time, the more we keep talking to people like you who tell us what smart decisions to make.
If I can bring this up, and I'm going to throw it to Keith here in just a second, but Skyler, you asked a question a little while ago that I thought we were going to go down this path a little bit, but we did get feedback from our business partners that are in the cyber industry saying we need book smart kids, but we need kids that can solve problems that can be embedded into our current workforce. And part of that is professional skills. And so, Keith, can you talk about PC10?
Yeah. So that really evolved from the very beginning. We knew from that time that we needed those skills, and we needed them in a meaningful sort of way that just wasn't like just touch on these as you go through this. So we put these together, tested them with some of our industry partners, and we developed a set of 10 skills that are, yes, those soft skills, communication and problem solving and critical thinking, but with a twist on them about how do they apply in a cybersecurity setting. So a perfect example of that is something that we have on ours called precise documentation. And so we have heard again and again, like students have to be able to, when they're going through a situation, that they have to document everything they've done so that they know next time and others know what they did. Well, that you don't practice that in school unless you know that you're practicing it. So we defined it, we built it into every unit that we've got, and then we have performance-based assessments that analyze that, and rubrics for the teachers to say what level of precise documentation did they really go through there, and they present that out to the class and get feedback from the class on was that the right level that you're looking for, and then that goes into a portfolio. So from us, that's pretty in depth, right? And so if you can say to somebody, here's how I demonstrate to you that I will be able to manage and handle these kind of scenarios when they come in, that's way different than saying I scored a 79% on some standardized test that I took online. So those are the things. We got 10 of those. We got them built out. But that's just one example of what we know is important and how we build it in and how we develop it.
That's
And
good
that's like a
because
college level
Right. Yeah.
type of mentality there, because I can recall, many years ago when I was in college that there were a couple of courses where you had to build a portfolio for that semester, and all your work was peer reviewed, and you had to go through this whole process of creating your drafts, updating your documentation based off your peer reviews, getting final approvals, and lo and behold, that's something that translates into the professional world. So the fact that you're bringing that, introducing that into a school, like a high school, secondary school scenario, that's going to set those kids way ahead of the game by the time they graduate.
The other point to that, Skyler, and you mentioned sort of like a digital portfolio. We have just launched in the past couple months what we call Paradigm Centra. And what Centra does is it's a digital portfolio for our program. It's for the teachers, it's for the students, but it's also for business and industry. So the lessons are in there, the curriculums are in there for the teacher to use. The students can upload projects, can be part of their digital portfolio. And we're able to also have business and industry take a look at the kids coming through the program and seeing what successes or maybe misses that they're having. And so it's almost like, there's like LinkedIn almost for cyber high school students. And so that's a component of it as well. It's got a lot of different features to it. But when you talked about a digital portfolio, that reminded me, hey, we have this that we're putting out there to all of our schools as well, and something that we see going to be a great benefit for students, teachers, and the cyber businesses as well.
Yeah, for sure.
it's interesting to hear about integrating things like the reporting and the precise documentation and stuff like that, because I have seen even people in industry, especially coming from other parts of the IT industry, when cybersecurity education wasn't really a thing. That's kind of where we all came out of, but they get into doing pen test work and stuff like that, and they're like, well, I don't like writing reports. And it's like, well, that's what this is. So it sounds like that would be really beneficial for students too, to get an actual picture of what this industry is like and the true nature of the work.
That's right.
Well, we fought in education for a long time on the so why do I need to know this, or when am I going to use this? And this is exactly it. Like, we can say this is exactly when you're going to use this and why it's important.
That's excellent. Well, does anybody else have anything they'd really like to say before we close? Skyler?
I actually had one question about the program and when you guys are presenting or talking to students. Do you guys ever, because Matt, you guys had said that you do partner with local organizations and whatnot. Am I right to assume that you do bring in maybe some representatives from those organizations to talk to the students throughout the course?
Yeah, that's a great question, Skyler. We do. So one of the things that we do is we work with the schools for a kickoff night. And so when we have those kickoff nights, so that they can explain the program to the students and the parents. So what's this new cybersecurity program coming to XYZ high school? And so there's a kickoff night, and the teachers are there. Usually when you have a curriculum night, or you're going to talk about a new program, it's kind of like want, like the old Peanuts adults that we heard on the cartoons.
Yeah.
But we really encourage them to. You can have the principal or the teacher speak for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, then get off the stage and have the people that are in the industry, the people that are like 25 to 35 that are in the cyber industry working for these companies, go up to the podium and talk to the kids about, A, this is real, B, here's what you need, and C, this is how much you can make. And so that gets sort of that interest going. So we talk about them being embedded from the get-go. Keith alluded to it too before, but one of the probably greatest successes we have in rolling out a program is making sure that the mentorships and internships that are embedded in Paradigm Cyber and the schools, that those thought partners in the area that have the cyber companies or let's face it, any company that has a cyber division, which should be every company, is linked and sees the kids. They're either guest speakers, they're mentors, they're providing internships, and then essentially they'll be providing jobs as well. So that's part of the secret sauce too.
Fantastic.
I would be remiss if we didn't mention David Kennedy, and just thanks to him for his support of not just Bedford schools, because as a grad, he's been sort of shepherding them through their program with Darren Posick, who's one of the rock star teachers in the Paradigm core team as well. But just him being a great mentor for us. He has provided great guidance, whether it's been in a Zoom or in person at Trusted Sec when we needed some meeting space. But he's been a huge supporter of ours, so we thank him for those efforts.
Awesome. Well, how about just before we close, any other really great stories? Have you got some students that have been assigned to CVE, or maybe bought a car with their bug bounty money? Anything fun like that?
Keith, I'm going to ask you to talk about, right?
Yeah. So we had this moment one of those moments where we knew we were onto something. So one of our favorite stories is about one of our longtime partners, a national financial institution. We were starting off, and they brought all the students in, showed them their war room and all the things similar to what exists at Trusted Sec also. And then they brought them into this big open table, and they were all seated there. And the deputy CISO was asking the students, like, so what are you learning? And they start in on all of the detail and the alphabet soup and all the things that I don't even know anything about. And the deputy CISO's jaw drops, and he's like, hold on a second. So he goes and gets his boss and brings him in and go, like, do it again, do that thing again. So what are you learning? And the CISO gets all this. And then he starts like, these are high school kids? And behind them are all the college interns they've hired. And they're like, we don't even do that stuff or know how to do those things, much less do it in high school. And then so the CISO leaves, goes to the VP of HR and says, I'd really love to change our hiring practices because I need to hire these kids. I need to get them in here. And that's when we realized, like, this is more than just skills for high school students. This is really changing the landscape of what kids are capable of and what industries are really, and what industry partners are really looking for. So that was one of our moments that we realized it was really, really just outstanding.
Well, that sounds like a really fantastic success. And I mean, an experience like that, you have to walk out of there feeling like, I have truly achieved something. So that's really wonderful to hear. And I hope you are still enjoying that.
That's great.
We want more stories like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you both for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. Glad that we were able to wrap up our little series on this subject here with the two of you. And, maybe we'll get you all on the show or get Darren back on the show to kind of hear how things are progressing in the future.
That would be awesome. It'd be awesome to have him. Be awesome to have a student or two on too. We'd love to see that. Thanks for the opportunity, guys.